These intervals all have C on the bottom. Looking at the first interval, we have C on the bottom and E on top. So we'll use the C major scale for these intervals. Looking at the C major scale, C is scale degree 1 and E is what scale degree? E is scale degree 3. 1, 2, 3. It's a diatonic interval and it's not one of the perfect intervals, so we know it's a major third. Next, C on the bottom, F on top. C is scale degree 1 and F is scale degree 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a fourth. The perfect intervals are unison, fourth, fifth, and octave. This is a fourth, so it's a perfect fourth. Last in this row, C on the bottom, B on top. C is 1, B is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a diatonic interval, not a perfect interval, so it's a major seventh. These intervals all have F on the bottom, so we'll use the F major scale for these intervals. Note the B flat in the key signature. This interval has F on the bottom and C on top. Looking at the F major scale, F is scale degree 1, C is scale degree 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it's diatonic. The fifth is one of the perfect intervals, so the interval is a perfect fifth. The B flat in the key signature tells us that all B's are B flats. This interval has F on the bottom and B flat on top. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is one of the perfect intervals, so this interval is a perfect fourth. Last in this row, F is on the bottom and F is also on the top. That's an octave. An octave is one of the perfect intervals, so the interval is a perfect octave. These intervals all have G on the bottom, so we'll use the G major scale for these intervals. G is 1 and A is 2. 1, 2. A is diatonic in the G major scale. It's not a perfect interval, so the interval is a major second. Next, G is 1 and F sharp is 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The sharp for F is in the key signature. F sharp is a note that appears in the G major scale, so F sharp is a diatonic note. Scale degree 7 is not one of the perfect intervals, so the interval is a major seventh. The last interval has G on the bottom and D on the top. We see D is a diatonic note, and it's scale degree 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Scale degree 5 is one of the perfect intervals, so the interval is a perfect fifth. So far, all the intervals we've looked at have been written within the first octave or first half of the 2-octave major scale. The next intervals will extend beyond the first octave. Looking at the second half of the 2-octave major scale, we see it's a repeat of the same note names, but the notes are all 1 octave higher. The scale degree numbers just continue to count up the scale. Intervals greater than 1 octave are often called compound intervals. Let's look at these compound intervals. First, we have C on the bottom and E on the top. This particular E is over 1 octave above the bottom note. Since C is the bottom note, we'll use the C major scale. This E on the C major scale is diatonic, and is scale degree 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The rules for perfect and major intervals remain the same in the second octave. Along with unison, fourth, fifth, and octaves, scale degrees 11 and 12 are also perfect intervals. This is because 11 has the same note name as 4, and 12 has the same note name as 5. When looking at two octaves, the perfect intervals are unison, fourth, fifth, octaves, 11th, and 12th. All other diatonic intervals are major. Let's look at these three intervals. One with a C on the bottom, one with an F on the bottom, and one with a G on the bottom. So we'll use the C, F, and G major scales. As noted before, the first interval has a C on the bottom and this E on the top. Since C is the bottom note, we'll use the C major scale. We see this E is the 10th scale degree in the C major scale. It's not a perfect interval, but it is diatonic, so it's a major 10th. Next, we have F on the bottom and this D on the top. We'll use the F major scale for this interval since F is the note on the bottom. In the F major scale, this D is scale degree 13. It's a note in the F major scale, so it's a diatonic interval. It's not a perfect interval, so it's major. The interval is a major 13th. Lastly, we have G on the bottom and this C on the top. We'll use the G major scale since G is the bottom note of this interval. Looking at the G major scale, this C is scale degree 11. C is a note in the G major scale, so it's a diatonic interval. Scale degree 11 is one of the perfect intervals, so this interval is a perfect 11th.